Hello everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's edition of the Our America channel. My name is Thornton Prayer. I'm a citizen, a patriot, and I care very deeply about our country. Today I'd like to talk about lying. I'm going to say something a lot of people might not like, but I'll say it anyway, and that is that everybody lies. Every human being lies. You know, we lie for a variety of reasons. We lie to avoid getting into trouble. We lie in order to keep the peace. I mean, you know, the same things like if your wife or girlfriend asks you, does this dress make me look fat? You better lie if you want to have a peaceful few moments or the next few days. But more importantly, when I talk about lying, I'm thinking, of course, about what's going on politically and socially in our country today. And one of the things I'm going to suggest is that the lying that's happening now has taken on a different flavor, a more intense flavor. And I think part of the problem is that what we're doing is that we're lying to avoid telling the truth. And when I say avoid telling the truth, one of the things I can tell you when I talk to people personally and professionally is I hear a lot of stuff that people will lie in order to protect themselves because they avoid telling, very important things about themselves. I've known people with bad addictions, drug addictions, alcoholism. And if you ask them if they were an alcoholic or had a drug addiction, oh no, they had it all handled. It was a lie. They were trying to pretend to themselves and be in a state of denial about this sort of stuff, but the fact of the matter was they had a problem. And so they kept trying to avoid this sort of thing. And the longer they kept trying to do this, the more and more things got worse until they hit rock bottom, or in some cases I know people died. It was one of the saddest things, and I've seen it happen more than once over and over again. My concern is that what's happening today in our country is that the lying is so pervasive, it can destroy our country. Now, it's not something that can happen overnight, but I'm talking about the fact that when our politicians lie to us and then we accept it, then that's a problem. When we lie to ourselves about what politicians are doing and we tell ourselves, oh, this is the truth, that is as dangerous as if we were believing lies that they're telling us. And the bottom line is this: unless we're willing to tell the truth, including the hard truths about the things we personally and collectively are doing wrong that are detrimental, then we can't get anywhere. I know people on the left who have beliefs and fantasies about what's going on that are lies. I know there are people on the right who have fantasies and beliefs that are lies. This is not to point fingers at one side or the other. I'm talking about pointing fingers at the person who's in the mirror. Unfortunately, relatively few people have the willingness and the courage and the strength to look in the mirror proactively and directly and say to themselves, I'm screwing up here and I'm dropping the ball and I'm not doing what's necessary in order to try to improve my country and understand what's going on. It's the easiest thing in the world to point fingers at other people. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. I mean, it really is. But the hard thing, like I said, relatively few people are willing to do, publicly, even privately, is to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm screwing up. I'm dropping the ball. I'm actually contributing to the problems in our country today. If you're interested in trying to improve things, then I'm going to ask you to be willing to tell yourself the truth. This doesn't mean being perfect. I mean, far from, nobody's perfect. No one's saying that or suggesting that. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. This is more a matter of being honest to say, look, there is a better way. There are better options, but if I'm going to do something about this, or if our country's going to head in a certain way, then in a better way, then I've got to be willing to confront some things about myself. A prime example of this is what goes on in Congress. Congress consistently gets very low ratings as far as if you read the major pollsters, and yet 90-something% of congressmen and congresswomen get reelected. Now, if we hate Congress, but we keep reelecting the same people, who's that on? That's not on the people in Congress, that's on us. And so if we want Congress to be different and better, then we have to be different and better people, and we have to start telling the truth. We don't hold our politicians accountable. We don't try to engage with them. If you've seen other videos I've done where I've suggested that we don't pay attention to what's going on in our government, and then we act like, oh, the government sucks. Well, as I read a long time ago, I remember reading an article, someone says, the government is us. So if the government isn't working, that's on us, not quote unquote the government, which is we treat as this sort of disembodied thing that's running around outside of our control. I mean, I've said this before in other videos. It's like if you show up at your job every, I don't know, 2 to 4 years, you won't have a job. And you show up for your relationship every 2 to 4 years, you won't have a relationship. So if you think you can just show up every 2 to 4 years or never, and then moan and bitch and kvetch or whatever and complain about the government, that's on you. And I'm saying that, it's time to start telling the truth to ourselves, ourselves as individuals, and to start taking responsibility about these sorts of things. Now I'll end here. I'm always open to hear what people think and say and their beliefs about this sort of stuff, because I'm more interested in us coming together, not about pointing fingers and calling each other liars. Thanks for listening. Like I said, I'm open to hearing your thoughts and suggestions, and we'll move on to the next video.